In a world where grocery store shelves seem endless, a chilling reality is quietly unfolding. Some of your favorite foods, those pantry staples and indulgent treats you've always taken for granted, are vanishing. Climate change, supply chain disruptions, and shifting agricultural trends are conspiring to make certain foods harder to find, and in some cases they may disappear altogether. Imagine a future without the creamy comfort of avocados, the sweet burst of honey, or the rich aroma of coffee to start your day. It's not just about scarcity, it's about the stories behind these foods, how they're being threatened by forces beyond our control. In this article, we'll uncover 13 foods that are quietly slipping away, the reasons behind their decline, and why you'll regret not stocking up while you still can. Brace yourself. This isn't just a list, it's a wake-up call for your taste buds and your pantry. 1. Free-range eggs are about to become a luxury you can't afford. Your grocery store's egg section is lying to you. Those cartons labeled free-range sitting next to the industrial ones aren't going to be there much longer, and when they disappear, you'll be stuck with nutritionally empty alternatives that barely qualify as food. Real free-range eggs are nutritional powerhouses that put their factory-farmed counterparts to shame. We're talking about eggs packed with omega-3 fatty acids that support heart health and brain function, vitamin A that keeps your immune system running, vitamin E that protects your cells from damage, and antioxidants that fight inflammation. These aren't just eggs, they're medicine in a shell. During a crisis when processed foods become scarce and medical care gets expensive, these nutrient-dense eggs could be the difference between thriving and barely surviving. But here's the brutal truth. Local farmers who raise chickens the right way are being systematically destroyed by regulations and fees that were designed for massive industrial operations. Small-scale farmers can't afford the compliance costs, licensing fees, and bureaucratic hurdles that big agribusiness can absorb as operating expenses. Every month, more family farms shut down permanently, taking their superior eggs with them. What's left behind is industrial garbage. Factory eggs from chickens crammed into cages, pumped full of antibiotics, and fed cheap grain lack the nutritional density you need. They're cheaper because they're inferior products from a broken system that prioritizes volume over value. When you buy those eggs, you're paying for water and empty calories, not real nutrition. The window for action is closing fast. You need to find local farmers now and build relationships with them. Pay their prices without complaining because you're investing in your health and food security. If you have any space at all, start raising your own chickens. It's not as hard as you think, and the eggs will be better than anything you can buy. Learn to preserve eggs without refrigeration using water glass or lime water, methods that kept eggs fresh for months before industrial refrigeration. Stock up while you still can, because once these farms are gone, they're not coming back. The choice is simple. Act now or settle for nutritional mediocrity forever. 2. Raw honey is vanishing because big food can't control it. The honey aisle at your local store is a battlefield, and you're losing without even knowing it. Real raw honey is becoming extinct while fake, processed garbage masquerades as the genuine article. This isn't just about taste, it's about losing access to one of nature's most powerful survival foods. Raw honey is the ultimate prepper's dream. It never spoils, literally never. Archaeologists have found edible honey in Egyptian tombs thousands of years old. When disaster strikes and your refrigerator becomes useless, raw honey will still be perfect. But it's not just about shelf life. Raw honey is a medical kit disguised as food. It heals wounds faster than most modern treatments, boosts your immune system when you can't afford to get sick, and provides immediate energy when you need it most. The problem is that raw honey can't be mass-produced or controlled by corporate food giants, so they're systematically destroying it. Walk into any grocery store and you'll find shelves packed with honey that's been pasteurized to death, diluted with water, or worse, cut with corn syrup. This processed junk has none of the enzymes, antioxidants, or healing properties that make real honey valuable. It's sugar water with a honey label. Why is this happening? Because raw honey threatens the entire processed food system. You can't patent raw honey. You can't add preservatives to make it more profitable. You can't manufacture it in a factory and ship it across the world while maintaining its potency. Real honey comes from real beekeepers who understand their craft, and those people are being pushed out by regulations, competition from fake products, and consumers who don't know the difference. Your action plan is simple but urgent. Stop buying honey from grocery stores immediately. Find local beekeepers in your area and buy directly from them. Yes, it costs more up front, but you're paying for actual medicine, not flavored corn syrup. Build a relationship with these beekeepers because they won't be around forever. Stock up now while you still can. Raw honey should be a cornerstone of your emergency preparedness kit. When antibiotics become unavailable and wound care becomes critical, that jar of real honey could save your life. Don't wait until it's too late to discover what you've lost. 3 bilk dried lentils are being hoarded away from you. Your local grocery store's dried goods aisle is about to get a lot emptier, and dried lentils will be among the first casualties. While you're distracted by flashy processed foods and overpriced organic trends, one of the most practical survival foods on the planet is quietly becoming harder to find. This isn't an accident. It's the result of a supply chain that prioritizes commercial buyers over regular consumers like you. Dried lentils are the ultimate crisis food that most people are too ignorant to appreciate. They're packed with protein, cook faster than any other dried legume, and require minimal water and fuel to prepare. When the power goes out and your fancy kitchen appliances become useless, you can cook lentils over a simple fire or camp stove in under 30 minutes. They don't need soaking like beans, they don't require special equipment, and they provide complete nutrition when fresh food becomes scarce or unaffordable. But here's what the food industry doesn't want you to know. Bulk lentils are disappearing from retail because supply chains are prioritizing commercial buyers who purchase massive quantities. Restaurants, food manufacturers, and institutional buyers get first pick, leaving scraps for individual consumers. The lentils that do make it to grocery stores are often overpriced, pre-packaged in tiny portions, or processed into expensive convenience foods that defeat the entire purpose. This is deliberate market manipulation. Cheap, nutritious foods that make people self-sufficient threaten the processed food industry's profit margins. They can't add preservatives to lentils, they can't patent them, and they can't create artificial scarcity to drive up prices. So instead, they make bulk quantities hard to find and push you toward expensive alternatives that require their infrastructure to produce. You need to act now before this window closes permanently. Find food co-ops, restaurant supply stores, or ethnic grocery stores that still sell lentils in bulk quantities. Buy 20 to 50-pound bags and store them properly in sealed containers away from moisture and pests. Lentils last for years when stored correctly, making them ideal for long-term food security. Learn to cook them properly now, not during an emergency when you're stressed and desperate. Master basic lentil recipes that require minimal ingredients. When meat becomes unaffordable and protein sources become scarce, these skills will keep you fed while others scramble for overpriced alternatives. Don't wait until the shelves are bare to realize what you've lost. 4 wild-caught canned fish is about to become a black market commodity. The canned fish aisle is turning into a minefield of lies and mislabeled products, and you're about to lose access to one of the most reliable sources of shelf-stable nutrition on the planet. Wild-caught canned fish like tuna, sardines, and salmon are disappearing from store shelves, replaced by inferior farm-raised imposters that most consumers can't tell apart. This isn't just market evolution, it's a deliberate squeeze on your food independence. Real wild-caught fish is nutritional gold that doesn't need a refrigerator. These cans are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, complete proteins, essential minerals and vitamins that your body actually needs. Unlike fresh fish that spoils in days, canned wild-caught fish stays good for years without electricity or special storage. When supply chains collapse and fresh food becomes scarce, these cans become portable protein that can keep you alive and healthy. They're ready to eat straight from the can or can be used in countless recipes without cooking fuel. But fishing bans, government quotas, and shrinking fish populations are making wild-caught species harder and more expensive to harvest. Environmental regulations that sound good on paper are choking off access to these resources while doing nothing to address the real problems. Meanwhile, commercial fishing operations get preferential access to what's left, leaving smaller quantities for the consumer market at inflated prices. What's flooding the market instead is farm-raised garbage that's deliberately mislabeled to trick you. Farm-raised fish contains fewer nutrients, higher levels of toxins, antibiotics, and artificial additives that wild fish never touch. These operations pump fish full of chemicals to make them grow faster and look more appealing. But the nutritional value is a fraction of what nature provides. You're paying premium prices for inferior food that won't sustain you when you need it most. The labeling system is designed to confuse you. Terms like sustainable and responsibly sourced often mask farm-raised operations, while genuine wild-caught fish becomes harder to verify. Food companies know most consumers won't do the research, so they exploit this ignorance for profit. Your survival depends on finding traceable, genuinely wild-caught canned fish while it's still available. Build relationships with suppliers who can verify the source of their products. Stock up on brands that have proven track records of honest labeling. Learn to read labels properly and identify the signs of authentic wild-caught fish. When this resource disappears completely, you'll be stuck with nutritionally worthless alternatives that won't support your health during crisis situations. 5. Raw milk is being eliminated to keep you dependent. The war against raw milk isn't about safety, it's about control. While government agencies in the dairy industry feed you propaganda about dangerous bacteria, they're systematically destroying your access to one of nature's most complete foods. Raw milk is disappearing because it represents everything the industrial food system hates: independence, superior nutrition, and food that doesn't need their processing plants to be valuable. Raw milk is a nutritional powerhouse that puts pasteurized milk to shame. It's packed with beneficial bacteria that support gut health, enzymes that aid digestion, and immune-boosting compounds that get destroyed during pasteurization. The heating process that creates store-bought milk kills everything valuable, leaving behind a nutritionally dead liquid that requires artificial vitamin fortification just to be marginally useful. Raw milk contains natural probiotics, immunoglobulins, and lactoferrin that strengthen your immune system naturally, exactly what you need when medical care becomes expensive or unavailable. But raw milk is banned outright in many states and heavily regulated in others, all under the guise of protecting public health. This is corporate manipulation disguised as safety policy. The same government that allows fast food chains to poison millions with processed garbage suddenly cares deeply about your health when it comes to milk that humans have consumed safely for thousands of years. The real reason is that raw milk threatens the entire industrial dairy system. The dairy industry knows that anyone who tastes real raw milk will never willingly go back to their processed product. Raw milk is richer, creamier, and more satisfying than anything you can buy in stores. It doesn't need homogenization, stabilizers, or artificial vitamins because it's already complete. When people have access to raw milk, they stop buying industrial dairy products, which destroys profit margins for massive processing operations. The regulatory system is designed to make raw milk as difficult and expensive as possible to obtain. Farmers who want to sell raw milk face mountains of bureaucracy, expensive testing requirements, and constant harassment from health departments. Many give up rather than fight the system, reducing your options year after year. Your window for accessing raw milk is closing rapidly. Find local farmers who still sell raw milk and build relationships with them immediately. Learn proper storage and handling techniques because this knowledge won't be available when you need it most. Understand the legal requirements in your state and work within the system while it still allows any access at all. Stock up on raw milk products when possible, and consider learning to process your own dairy if you can source it. This isn't just about better nutrition, it's about maintaining food independence when the industrial system fails you. 6. Butter powder is vanishing because it makes you too independent. You won't find butter powder in your regular grocery store, and that's no accident. This shelf-stable powerhouse is being deliberately kept away from mainstream consumers because it threatens the entire refrigerated dairy distribution system. While you're stuck buying expensive butter that spoils quickly and requires constant refrigeration, butter powder offers the same rich flavor and cooking properties with a shelf life measured in years, not weeks. Butter powder is the ultimate survival fat that most people don't even know exists. It's calorie-dense, providing the essential fats your body needs when food becomes scarce. Unlike regular butter that turns rancid without refrigeration, butter powder stays fresh for decades when stored properly. You can rehydrate it into spreadable butter, use it for baking, or add it directly to recipes for rich flavor. When the power grid fails and your refrigerator becomes a useless box, butter powder will still be perfectly good. But here's why it's disappearing. Butter powder promotes complete food independence from the system. You don't need industrial refrigeration networks, constant resupply from grocery stores, or expensive cold storage to maintain it. The dairy industry loses money when you're not forced to buy their products every week, so they've made sure butter powder stays in specialty prepper supply shops where most consumers never encounter it. The few places that do carry butter powder price it as a specialty item, making it seem expensive compared to regular butter. This is deliberate market manipulation. When you calculate the actual cost per serving and factor in the zero waste from spoilage, butter powder is significantly cheaper than buying butter repeatedly. But most people never do this math because they're not supposed to figure it out. Butter powder also has massive barter potential during crisis situations. When fresh dairy products become impossible to find, a small amount of butter powder can be worth far more than its weight in other commodities. People will trade valuable items for the taste and nutrition that butter powder provides when everything else becomes bland survival rations. Your action plan is simple but urgent. Find prepper supply companies, survival food retailers, or specialty camping stores that sell quality butter powder in bulk quantities. Don't buy the tiny consumer packages, get the large containers that provide real value. Learn how to store it properly in sealed containers away from moisture and light. Master the rehydration ratios and cooking techniques now while you have time to experiment. When the supply chain collapses and fresh butter becomes a luxury you can't afford, that stockpile of butter powder will keep your food palatable and your body properly nourished. 7. Canned meat is being turned into expensive garbage. Canned meat is quietly transforming from a reliable emergency protein source into an overpriced joke that won't sustain you when you need it most. While you've been distracted by fresh meat prices and trendy protein alternatives, the canned meat industry has been systematically destroying the value proposition that made these products essential survival foods. What's happening isn't market fluctuation. It's deliberate degradation of a food category that threatens the fresh meat supply chain's control over your protein intake. Real canned meat used to be a prepper's dream. Shelf-stable protein that lasted for years, required no refrigeration, and provided complete nutrition during emergencies. A single can could deliver 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein, essential amino acids, iron, and B vitamins that your body needs to function properly. When disaster strikes and fresh meat becomes unavailable or unaffordable, canned meat should be your protein insurance policy. It's ready to eat straight from the can, can be used in countless recipes, and provides the caloric density needed to maintain strength during crisis situations. But shrinkflation is destroying canned meat's value faster than inflation destroys your purchasing power. Companies are reducing the actual meat content in each can, while keeping prices the same or higher. What used to be solid chunks of beef, chicken, or pork is now mostly water, fillers, and artificial flavorings designed to trick your taste buds. You're paying premium prices for products that contain less protein per dollar than they did 5 years ago, and the trend is accelerating. Supply chain problems are making quality canned meat harder to find while inferior products flood the market. Manufacturers are cutting corners on sourcing, using lower-grade meat scraps and adding more preservatives to extend shelf life at the expense of nutritional value. The canned meat that reaches store shelves today often contains mystery meat from multiple sources, artificial binding agents, and sodium levels that turn each can into a health hazard rather than a survival asset. The writing is on the wall. Quality canned meat will become a luxury item that only wealthy preppers can afford. When economic collapse makes fresh meat unaffordable for most people, good canned meat will be worth its weight in silver. Your window for stocking up on legitimate, high-quality canned meat is closing rapidly. Find brands that still use real meat as the primary ingredient. Buy in bulk quantities while prices are still reasonable, and store them properly for long-term food security. Don't wait until crisis hits to discover that what's left on the shelves is nutritionally worthless protein substitute that won't keep you alive. 8. Natural peanut butter is being replaced with sugar-loaded junk. The peanut butter aisle has become a wasteland of processed garbage masquerading as real food, and you're losing access to one of the most calorie-dense survival foods that nature provides. Natural peanut butter, the kind made with just peanuts and salt, is disappearing from mainstream stores because it can't be manipulated, enhanced, or addictive enough to generate the profit margins that food manufacturers demand. What's left behind is sugar-loaded paste that will spike your blood sugar and crash your energy when you need sustained nutrition most. Real natural peanut butter is survival food in a jar. It's packed with healthy fats, complete proteins, and essential nutrients that can keep you alive when other food sources become scarce. 2 tablespoons deliver nearly 200 calories of dense nutrition that your body can actually use for sustained energy. During emergencies, when you're burning more calories than normal, natural peanut butter provides the fat and protein combination that maintains muscle mass and keeps your brain functioning properly. It doesn't need refrigeration, lasts for months once opened, and can be eaten straight from the jar or used to enhance other survival foods. But the processed food industry has systematically contaminated the peanut butter market with products that barely qualify as food. Store shelves are dominated by brands loaded with added sugars, hydrogenated oils, and stabilizers that turn peanut butter into candy. These products are designed to be addictive rather than nutritious, creating dependency on their artificial flavor profiles while delivering empty calories instead of sustenance. The sugar content in most commercial peanut butter is so high that it becomes a liability during crisis situations when stable blood sugar is critical for clear thinking and physical performance. Why is this happening? Because natural peanut butter threatens the processed food system's control over your nutrition. Real peanut butter separates naturally, requiring you to stir it occasionally. Food companies have convinced consumers that this natural process is inconvenient, conditioning people to prefer artificially stabilized products that stay mixed but contain chemicals your body doesn't recognize as food. The result is that natural peanut butter gets pushed to specialty sections at premium prices, while inferior products dominate prime shelf space. Your emergency food stockpile needs real natural peanut butter, not the sugar-loaded imposters that will fail you when survival depends on sustained energy. Find brands that list only peanuts and salt as ingredients. Buy in bulk quantities and store jars in cool, dry places where they'll maintain quality for extended periods. Learn to recognize the difference between natural separation and actual spoilage. When supply chains collapse and protein becomes expensive, That stockpile of genuine peanut butter will provide the caloric density and nutritional value that keeps you functional while others struggle with blood sugar crashes from eating processed alternatives. 9. Powdered whole milk is being hidden from you on purpose. Powdered whole milk is vanishing from mainstream retail because it represents everything the industrial dairy system fears: complete independence from their expensive cold chain distribution network. While you're forced to buy fresh milk weekly, constantly worried about expiration dates and refrigeration failures, powdered whole milk sits quietly in storage for years, ready to provide the same nutrition without any of the infrastructure dependency that keeps you tethered to grocery stores and utility companies. Real powdered whole milk is liquid gold for families preparing for uncertain times. It contains all the proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals found in fresh whole milk, but in a shelf-stable form that doesn't require electricity to maintain. You can reconstitute it into drinking milk, use it for baking, add it to cereals and coffee, or consume it directly mixed into other foods for instant nutrition. During emergencies when fresh dairy becomes impossible to obtain, powdered whole milk provides the calcium, vitamin D, and complete proteins that growing children and adults need to maintain bone health and immune function. But you won't find quality powdered whole milk in your regular grocery store's dairy section, and that's no accident. The fresh milk industry has deliberately kept powdered whole milk out of mainstream retail channels because it threatens their entire business model. When families discover they can store months of milk nutrition in a few containers that don't require refrigeration, they stop making weekly milk purchases that generate consistent revenue streams. The dairy distribution system loses money when you're not forced to buy fresh milk every few days. What little powdered milk you do find in stores is usually skim milk powder, a nutritionally inferior product that removes the healthy fats and fat-soluble vitamins that make milk valuable. This isn't about shelf stability, it's about ensuring that powdered alternatives remain less satisfying than fresh products. Skim milk powder tastes watery, lacks the creamy richness of whole milk, and doesn't provide the sustained satiety that whole milk fats deliver. By offering only inferior alternatives, the industry ensures most consumers never experience how good real powdered whole milk can be. The regulatory environment makes it even harder to access quality powdered whole milk. Food safety regulations that seem reasonable on the surface create barriers that favor large-scale fresh milk operations while making small-scale powder production expensive and complicated. Most consumers never realize these products exist because they're relegated to bulk food stores, prepper supply companies, and specialty retailers that most people never visit. Your family's food security depends on finding and stockpiling powdered whole milk while it's still available. Seek out bulk food suppliers, survival food retailers, or restaurant supply stores that carry genuine whole milk powder in large quantities. Learn proper storage techniques using sealed containers and oxygen absorbers to maintain quality for maximum shelf life. Master the reconstitution ratios and understand how to use powdered milk in cooking and baking. When fresh milk becomes unaffordable or unavailable, that stockpile will provide essential nutrition that keeps your family healthy while others struggle with calcium deficiencies and protein shortages. 10. Whole grains are being turned into industrial waste. Your grocery store's grain section is a carefully orchestrated lie designed to keep you dependent on processed food manufacturers. While shelves overflow with boxed cereals, instant oats, and pre-ground flours that go rancid in weeks, genuine whole grains that last for decades are being pushed out of mainstream retail. This isn't market evolution. It's deliberate manipulation to ensure you never discover that real food security comes from storing grains that retain their full nutritional value for generations. Whole grains like wheat, oats, and rye are survival powerhouses that put every processed grain product to shame. When stored properly, these grains maintain their complete nutritional profile for 20 to 30 years, providing essential carbohydrates, proteins, fiber, B vitamins, and minerals that your body needs to function properly. Unlike the nutritionally stripped flour sitting on store shelves, whole grains contain the germ and bran that provide sustained energy, support digestive health, and maintain stable blood sugar levels. During crisis situations when processed foods become scarce or unaffordable, whole grains become the foundation of survival nutrition that can feed a family for months on a single investment. The real power of whole grains lies in your ability to grind them fresh as needed. When you control your own grain processing, you eliminate dependency on industrial flour mills, transportation networks, and retail distribution systems that can fail during emergencies. Fresh ground flour from whole grains tastes better, provides superior nutrition, and doesn't contain the preservatives and chemical additives found in commercial products. You can create bread, pasta, cereals, and countless other foods using nothing but grains and basic cooking skills. But the processed food industry has systematically trained consumers to fear whole grains through decades of marketing propaganda. They've convinced people that grinding grain is too difficult, time-consuming, or old-fashioned, while simultaneously flooding the market with convenient alternatives that create dependency. Pre-ground flour goes rancid quickly, forcing regular purchases, while instant oats and processed cereals provide inferior nutrition at premium prices. The result is that most people never learn the skills needed to process their own grains and remain trapped in a system that profits from their ignorance. Finding quality whole grains is becoming increasingly difficult as mainstream retailers focus shelf space on higher-margin processed products. The grains that do make it to regular stores are often low quality, improperly stored, or sold in tiny quantities that make bulk storage impractical. Meanwhile, the knowledge and equipment needed to process whole grains are being lost as fewer people understand these fundamental food preparation skills. Your food independence depends on stocking whole grains, while they're still available, and learning to process them properly. Find bulk food suppliers, religious institutions, or agricultural suppliers that sell food-grade whole grains in 25 to 50-pound quantities. Invest in a quality grain mill that can handle the volume you'll need during extended emergencies. Learn to store grains using proper containers, oxygen absorbers, and pest control methods that ensure decades of shelf life. Master basic grinding techniques and understand how to use fresh flour in baking and cooking. When the industrial food system collapses and processed grains become unavailable, your stockpile of whole grains will provide the nutritional foundation that keeps your family fed while others starve on empty processed alternatives. 11. Salt is being hoarded away from your pantry. Salt isn't just seasoning. It's survival insurance that the industrial food system doesn't want you to have in meaningful quantities. While you're focused on fancy sea salts and pink Himalayan varieties sold in tiny containers at premium prices, bulk non-iodized salt is disappearing from retail channels because it represents the ultimate threat to food dependency, the ability to preserve your own food indefinitely, without refrigeration or industrial processing. Real salt, the kind sold in 50-pound bags without additives, is a preservation powerhouse that has kept food safe for thousands of years before electricity existed. Salt can cure meat for months of storage, preserve vegetables through fermentation, and maintain food safety when refrigeration fails. During emergencies, when fresh food spoils quickly and processed foods become unavailable, salt becomes the technology that extends the life of whatever food you can obtain. It's also essential for maintaining proper electrolyte balance when you're doing physical work during crisis situations, preventing the muscle cramps and fatigue that can become life-threatening when medical care isn't available. But bulk, non-iodized salt is systematically being pushed out of mainstream retail because it promotes complete food independence. When you can preserve your own meat, vegetables, and dairy products using salt, you stop buying expensive processed alternatives that generate ongoing revenue for food manufacturers. The preserved foods you create using salt techniques often taste better and provide superior nutrition compared to industrially processed equivalents, which threatens multiple profit centers simultaneously. The salt you do find in stores is deliberately packaged to discourage bulk storage and food preservation activities. Table salt contains anti-caking agents and iodine that interfere with preservation processes, while gourmet salts are priced to make large quantity purchases financially impractical. Food companies want you buying salt by the pound, not by the bag, ensuring you never accumulate enough to become truly self-sufficient in food preservation. Why is this happening now? Because salt represents knowledge and skills that bypass the entire industrial food chain. When you understand salt curing, fermentation, and preservation techniques, you can take cheap, abundant raw ingredients and transform them into shelf-stable foods that rival anything manufactured commercially. This knowledge makes you dangerous to a system that profits from your ignorance and dependency. Your food security plan must include massive quantities of pure, non-iodized salt acquired while it's still available through agricultural suppliers, pool supply companies, or bulk food retailers. Learn proper food preservation techniques, including salt curing, fermentation, and brining, while you have access to practice materials. Understand that salt also becomes valuable barter currency during economic collapse when other preservatives become unavailable. Stock salt in quantities that seem excessive now, but will prove essential when the industrial preservation system fails and you need to make your own food last through extended emergencies. Heirloom seeds represent the ultimate threat to industrial agriculture's stranglehold on your food supply, and they're being deliberately eliminated from mainstream availability to ensure you remain dependent on corporate seed monopolies forever. While you're distracted by expensive organic produce and trendy farmers markets, the genetic foundation of real food independence is disappearing from retail channels because these seeds offer something the industrial system cannot tolerate: the ability to grow your own food and save seeds for future crops without paying licensing fees or buying new seeds every season. Real heirloom seeds are non-GMO varieties that have been passed down through generations, selected for superior flavor, nutrition, and adaptability to local growing conditions. Unlike hybrid seeds that produce sterile offspring or GMO varieties controlled by patents, heirloom seeds create plants that produce viable seeds you can harvest, store, and replant indefinitely. This means a single investment in quality heirloom seeds can provide food security for decades without requiring ongoing purchases from seed companies. The vegetables and fruits grown from heirloom seeds often contain higher levels of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants compared to commercial varieties bred for shelf life and shipping durability rather than nutritional value. But heirloom seeds are being systematically pushed out of retail channels because they represent everything the industrial agriculture system fears: genetic diversity, local adaptation, and farmer independence. Corporate seed companies have spent decades consolidating control over seed production, creating dependency through hybrid varieties that don't breed true and GMO crops that require annual seed purchases. When gardeners and small farmers can save and replant their own seeds, the entire commercial seed industry loses recurring revenue streams that fund their research and patent portfolios. The regulatory environment is deliberately hostile to seed saving and heirloom variety preservation. Seed companies use patent laws to criminalize seed saving, while agricultural regulations make it increasingly difficult for small seed producers to compete with industrial operations. Many heirloom varieties are being lost forever, as the knowledge holders who maintain these genetic lines age out without passing on their expertise to younger generations. Why aren't heirloom seeds promoted alongside survival supplies and emergency preparedness equipment? Because growing your own food using saved seeds represents the ultimate form of food independence that threatens multiple industries simultaneously. When you can produce your own vegetables, herbs, and grains using seeds you've saved from previous harvests, you stop buying produce, processed foods, and commercial seeds that generate consistent profit streams for corporate agriculture.